At my brother's wedding, I was given a folding chair next to the kitchen. His fiancée said, "It's just for the plus ones." I looked around. Everyone else had a seat, even my ex. So I took my gift, turned around, and said, "Plus one this." He came running after me in front of everyone. "My name is David. I'm 33 years old, and I wasn't planning on writing this, but after what happened at my brother's wedding, I honestly need to vent. To better understand, I've always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Alvaro. He's 31, charming, successful, and very good at playing the role of the perfect son. I've always been the quieter one, the planner, the fixer, the one who helped pay when mom and dad couldn't. And yet, somehow, I've always been just background noise in everyone else's main show. Growing up, Alvaro and I weren't exactly close. He was the kind of kid who broke things and then blamed me. And I was the one who sacrificed to keep the peace. My parents would sigh, shake their heads, and say, "He's learning, David. You're the oldest. Be the example." And I was, even when he took my car at 17 and crashed it backing out of a party into a truck, I was the one who paid the insurance. I didn't tell our parents. And when he called me from jail at 21 because he got caught trying to steal cologne for his girlfriend, I was the one who bailed him out. Silence again. Peacemaker again. Fast forward to the present, Alvaro is getting married to a woman named Nuria. We've seen each other a few times over the past 2 years, and I'd be lying if I said we ever really connected. She's the type of person who talks with narrowed eyes, as if she's already bored with what you're saying. Always dressed to the nines, always scanning the room to see if someone more interesting walks in. She once called my job in logistics adorable. From then on, I kept my distance. Still, when the wedding invitations were sent, I RSVP'd. I even helped Alvaro with some of the planning. I recommended an excellent catering service that I'd worked with at my company, and they hired them. I didn't expect to be the best man or anything. I'm not delusional. But I thought I'd at least have a seat at a decent table and maybe a few moments to feel like part of the family. The wedding was held in a beautiful venue in the countryside, with lights strung between tall oak beams and a small lake shimmering in the background. Very fairy tale, very Instagram perfect. I arrived early with a wrapped gift, a decanter set engraved with their initials and the wedding date. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was elegant, something they could keep for years. I approached the welcome table where a girl with headphones and a clipboard gave me a tight smile. "You're David, right?" I nodded. She looked at her list and frowned slightly. "You're registered as a plus one." I blinked. "Excuse me, you're on the plus one list, so we've assigned you a seat near the kitchen entrance by the folding tables. If you had brought someone, it would have been different, but since you came alone." I felt a knot in my stomach. "I'm his brother." The girl froze. "Oh, I'm so sorry. There must be a mistake. Let me." But before she could run off, Nuria herself appeared. Perfect white dress, perfect makeup, perfect icy smile. "Hi, David," she said, drawing out my name as if it tasted bitter. "Glad you could make it. I told the organizer about the seat. I hope you don't mind. We had to make some tough decisions with the space." I looked at her. "You sat me in the kitchen?" She gave a quick laugh. "Not in the kitchen, just near. It's just for the plus ones, you know. Technically you're not in the wedding party, and we had to prioritize close friends and extended family. Nothing personal, okay?" I looked over her shoulder at the banquet area, tables with fine linens and floating candles, filled with people laughing and toasting with champagne. My uncle, who hadn't spoken to Alvaro in 6 years, had a seat in the center. My cousin Sergio, who was once caught stealing from Grandma's purse, also had his place. And then I saw her, my ex-girlfriend, Clara, sitting just 2 tables away from the head table, laughing with a glass of Prosecco in her hand. We dated for 5 years. It was Alvaro who introduced us. When we broke up, I found out they kept in contact. Of course, she had a seat. Nuria must have noticed where I was looking. "Oh, yes, we invited Clara. She and Alvaro remained friends, and she's always been very understanding. You don't mind, do you? I didn't say a word, just nodded slowly. I walked to the folding chair they had assigned me. It was awkwardly placed at the end of a small table, right next to a swinging door where waiters came and went, brushing past guests and apologizing with trays laden with food. It was noisy, hot, and smelled of fish and burnt rosemary. I sat there for only a moment, just a moment. I watched as the music started. The couple entered. Everyone applauded. I saw Alvaro whisper something to Clara as he passed her table, and she returned a smile that was a little too warm. I saw my gift being placed to the side, ignored among a growing pile of other boxes. Then I stood up, went back to the table, picked up the box with the decanter, and started walking towards the exit. As I passed Nuria near the dance floor, she turned, saw me, and called out, "Wait, where are you going?" I stopped. I turned around slowly. The room fell silent just long enough for the end of my reply to be heard. +1 this. Some people gasped. I think someone even laughed. I didn't care. I walked straight towards the doors, gift in hand. I didn't leave in a rage. I walked slowly, calmly, decisively, and I think that's what hurt them the most. When I reached the parking lot, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Alvaro. He was running towards me, jacket flapping behind him, his mouth moving, but not quite knowing what to say. "David, wait." "Dude, what was that? Why are you leaving?" "Come on, it's my wedding." I turned to face him. "You let her seat me next to the kitchen." He hesitated. "It wasn't. I didn't realize. She made the seating chart. I just thought it wasn't a big deal." I shook my head. "Not a big deal? You gave Clara, a better seat than your own brother." He shifted uncomfortably, scratching the back of his neck. "We weren't trying to exclude you, man. It's just that Nuria wanted to have certain people up front. She didn't want any tension." "Tension?" I repeated. "You mean me being in the same room as your ex-girlfriend who dated your brother?" He didn't answer. That silence. That was the moment something inside me broke. Or maybe it mended. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the gift. I didn't say anything cruel. I just turned around, opened my car, and got in. As I drove away, I saw him standing on the gravel, his hand half raised, half stunned, like he didn't know whether to be angry or ashamed. And that wasn't even the beginning of the real disaster. I didn't go straight home. I drove aimlessly for a while, windows down, letting the fresh air do a better job of calming me than anything else could. I ended up at a quiet lookout point on the outskirts of Alicante, one of those places where you can see the city lights spread out like fireflies on black velvet. I parked, sat in silence, and let everything sink in. Not just the wedding, but years of favoritism, of manipulation, of being treated like a disposable extra in a movie starring everyone but me. And somewhere in that silence, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I wasn't going to keep swallowing the disrespect just to keep the peace. I didn't answer Alvaro's messages that night, or the next morning, or the one Nuria sent that said, "Hi, sorry about yesterday's confusion. I hope you're not still upset. Let's move on." No, I didn't reply. But I did open my laptop. You see, I work in logistics and event coordination. I don't just plan routes and delivery schedules. I also manage crises, supplier relationships, and the logistical tracking of large events. One of my recent clients, the catering company that Alvaro hired for the wedding, the same one I recommended, the same one I helped grow. So I made a polite call to the catering manager, Carmen. She was kind, efficient, and had already thanked me profusely after the wedding for getting them that contract. I told her the truth, that I felt slighted, that I wasn't just a +1, and that I was thinking of reevaluating whether I would continue recommending their services in the future. Carmen was silent for a moment, then said something that stuck with me. "We had to do everything against the clock that day. They paid less than the agreed deposit and changed half the guest list 3 days before. Honestly, if you hadn't helped with the logistics, we wouldn't have made it. I'm so sorry for how they treated you. That was all I needed to hear because it meant there were vulnerabilities, receipts, contracts, and wiggle room. I didn't explode immediately. That's not my style. I'm more of a slow burn kind of guy. So I started small. First, I canceled the custom order I'd made for their wedding gift. It wasn't just the decanter I handed them. I'd also ordered a matching glassware set that was supposed to be delivered to their apartment the following week. I didn't just cancel it. I rerouted it to my address. After all, I thought, since no one's going to enjoy it, at least I can enjoy it with some good whiskey. Then I made a discreet call to the wedding photographer, another friend of mine. She had taken some stunning photos during the event and normally offered generous referral discounts to friends and family. I told her that I wouldn't recommend her again if she offered that special rate to Alvaro and Nuria. She understood immediately. I was cutting strings. Quietly. Precisely. But the big moment came a week later when I received an email from Alvaro. The subject line simply said, "Can you help me?" He was asking me for a favor. Typical. Apparently, he and Nuria were planning to extend their honeymoon. A rich uncle of Nuria's had gifted them a 3-week trip to Menorca, but they had run into passport issues and were now trying to coordinate urgent last-minute renewals, reschedule international flights, and arrange transfers to the villa. In Alvaro's words, "You're the only one I trust to figure this stuff out. You're good at this. Please, man." No apology. No mention of what happened at the wedding. Just help me. I stared at the screen for a good while, then opened a draft and wrote, "Hi Alvaro, I'd love to help, but unfortunately, this +1 isn't accepting bookings anymore. Good luck." And I left it in drafts, not because I regretted it, but because I realized something even more satisfying. I didn't need to say anything. Instead, I forwarded the email to a former colleague of mine, Raquel, who handles urgent travel logistics for high-profile clients. I didn't ask her to help them. I asked her to put them on her block list. It was petty, I admit, but it felt just. For years, I'd been the one fixing everything. The silent support of a family that never noticed the weight I carried. And this time, I dropped it all. 2 days later, I got a message from Alvaro. This time, he didn't sound like a newlywed. He sounded like a man crumbling. "You told Raquel not to help us. She said something about you being a blocker, not a client." What the hell, man? We're stuck in Seville. The flights were canceled. The villa won't refund our money. Nuria's freaking out. What is your problem? I didn't respond. That night, I was having dinner with a friend when I saw Nuria's name on the screen. This time, it wasn't a message, it was a call. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. "David, I don't know what your problem is, but Alvaro is a mess. If this is about the wedding, you need to grow up. You've made your point. Now stop acting like a child and fix it." And that made me burst out laughing right there in the middle of the restaurant. I didn't fix anything. I didn't reply. I just sat and waited because I knew something they didn't. The real disaster hadn't even begun. Remember the catering bill I mentioned? The one they underpaid? Turns out there was a clause in the contract. When a client provides an inaccurate guest count, changes menu requests after the deadline, and fails to pay in full within 14 days, a 25% penalty applies. And Carmen, who was already fed up with chasing them, filed a formal complaint with the venue, which triggered a chain reaction of additional charges. The band, who were also underpaid, did the same. And suddenly, Alvaro and Nuria weren't just dealing with a ruined honeymoon. They were facing several thousand euros in late penalties, contract fees, and withheld security deposits, all because they tried to save a few bucks and cut me out. And I hadn't even played my last card. About 2 weeks after the honeymoon debacle, I started getting tagged in wedding photos on social media. A distant cousin had posted an album titled "Beautiful Wedding, Unforgettable Night. Congratulations, Alvaro and Nuria." I clicked out of curiosity, and I mean that literally. It was like watching a visual summary of my own disappearance. There were 83 photos. In exactly one, the back of my head could be seen, blurry, near the kitchen door. I wasn't in the family photos. I wasn't in the toasting videos. I wasn't even mentioned in the thank you text to those who made the day magical. But you know who was tagged, commenting, and liking? Clara. It didn't look like bad organization anymore. It looked deliberate, as if Nuria had decided I didn't matter and Alvaro had agreed. That's when I decided I wasn't going to go quietly. I was going to hold a mirror up to them and show them what they'd become. I made a post. Just a simple, quiet, factual one. A carousel of behind-the-scenes photos I'd taken with my phone during the setup. Me adjusting table numbers. Me helping the florist arrange bouquets. Me talking to the caterers. It included a screenshot of the seating chart Nuria's organizer had accidentally sent me in a group email where my name appeared as +1, Alvaro's brother. Literally a footnote. And I wrote, I helped plan the wedding. I found the venue. I got a discount on the catering. I arrived early to help set up. I was seated next to the kitchen as a +1. The bride said I should understand. So I left quietly. 2 weeks later, they asked for my help again. This time, I declined. Apparently, that makes me spiteful. The post went semi-viral in our small social circle. I didn't expect it, but people shared it, commented, messaged me. High school friends, former coworkers, even family. My cousin Marina wrote, I knew something was off that day. You looked so uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I didn't reply to everyone, but I read every word. It was validating. But it wasn't just the sympathy that mattered. It was what happened next. 2 days after the post, Alvaro called me again. I let it go to voicemail. This time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded nervous. Hey, Nuria's mom saw your post, and now Nuria's losing it. She thinks you're trying to ruin her image. Her boss follows you, man. She says you have to take it down. I listened to that message while I was at the gym. I played it twice. And again as I walked to my car. I didn't respond. Instead, I made a second post. I've been asked to remove my last post. Apparently, the truth hurts someone's image. I'd take it down if it wasn't 100% true. I'm not silencing myself to save face. I've spent too many years making myself small so as not to inconvenience others. Never again. No names. No hate. Just honesty. That was the trick. Opinions can be debated. Screenshots and seating charts? Not so much. That post got even more attention than the first. Nuria's boss didn't comment publicly, but a mutual friend sent me a screenshot, a message in their company's Slack reminding everyone to maintain respectful conduct outside of work as well, and that perception reflects character. And then the disaster really started to accelerate. First, I got a call from Nuria's mother. Not a voicemail, a full-on call. I didn't answer, but she left a 3-minute message, an angry monologue about how all of this was damaging her family's reputation and how I would one day regret making such a fuss over a chair. Over a chair. That told me everything I needed to know. They still didn't get it. It wasn't about the chair. It was years of disrespect finally bursting the dam. Then came the group messages. Alvaro tried damage control by creating a family group chat. He titled it Let's Clear the Air and added the whole family, both immediate and extended. His first message, Hi everyone, just wanted to address the recent social media drama. I think things got out of hand. Let's try to move on. I stared at that message for a full minute, then replied, Happy to move on, but only when people take responsibility, not when they call consequences drama. Silence. Then my Aunt Mercedes wrote, I always wondered why you were sitting in the back. We thought you offered to help in the kitchen or something. Another cousin added, Honestly, I thought you'd left because you were sick. I had no idea you were treated like that. Within minutes, the narrative Alvaro and Nuria had constructed began to crumble. And Alvaro left the group. Nuria blocked me on all platforms. But here's where everything comes full circle. About 3 weeks later, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and slightly smudged, with no return address. Inside was a note. David, I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything. I didn't see it then, but I do now. I let Nuria make all the decisions because I thought keeping the peace was more important than standing up for my brother. I was wrong. You were always there for me, and I made you feel invisible at the most important moment of my life. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I wanted to thank you for everything you've done and apologize for everything I didn't. Alvaro. No excuses. No demands. Just that. I put the letter back in the envelope and left it on my desk. I haven't replied yet. Not because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge. It's letting people sit in the reality they built without you and finally realize who was holding the roof up all that time. And this time, I wasn't holding it up anymore. I didn't reply to Alvaro's letter right away. I left it there for a week under a paperweight on my desk. It wasn't because I didn't appreciate the apology. I did. In fact, part of me had been waiting my whole life for him to admit he was wrong. Without his usual deflections, without the "but you too," or the "it wasn't my intention," it wasn't just about the wedding or the chair. It was about years, decades, of being the plan B, the fixer, the emotional shock absorber for everyone. I'd accepted that role for so long I hadn't even noticed how I'd erased myself to let others shine. And now, the silence wasn't resentment, it was clarity. I had to decide what kind of relationship I wanted, not just with Alvaro, but with my whole family. Thanksgiving rolled around. My parents, as always, hosted. Alvaro and Nuria were also invited, or rather, still were. I hadn't RSVP'd, but my mother called. David, we'd really love for you to come. I promise there won't be any drama. I said yes, not to appease, but because I wasn't avoiding difficult conversations anymore. When I arrived, everything was quieter than usual. My cousins greeted me with nods, my aunt with an awkward smile. Alvaro was setting up chairs. He froze when he saw me, then gave a stiff hello. Nuria wasn't there. My mother whispered that she had other plans. Translation: she couldn't face the people who now saw her without filters. During dinner, Alvaro barely ate. He laughed too loud, glancing at me as if waiting for permission to pretend nothing happened. I didn't give it to him. After dessert, when everyone was chatting and football was playing in the background, he found me in the kitchen. "Thanks for coming," he said. I nodded. "Thanks for the letter." I meant it. I was an idiot. "You were," I replied bluntly. "I thought we could go back to how things were." "Back to what?" "To me being your silent lifeguard, the one who's not in your wedding photos." "I don't want it to be like that," he said. "I want to earn your trust." "Then show it. Don't expect me to fix your world every time it falls apart." He nodded. For once, he didn't make excuses. He let the weight of his mistakes hang in the air. And the interesting thing is, he tried after that. Small messages, asking for nothing. One Saturday, he showed up with coffee and pastries. Just wanted to hang out. We watched a game. We talked. He didn't mention the wedding, didn't ask for help, just was there with me, like a brother. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. I didn't trust him instantly. But something had shifted. Nuria, on the other hand, never apologized. I heard she'd lost some social connections after the wedding. Not because of me, but because of what she did. In the spring, Alvaro and Nuria announced they were taking a break. I wasn't surprised. After Menorca, the cracks were inevitable. One day, over lunch, he said, "I think I got so obsessed with impressing everyone that I forgot how to be myself." I didn't comment. I didn't need to. He was seeing the truth now. That summer, he invited me to his birthday barbecue. No formalities, just friends, burgers, and cold beer. He handed me the grilling tongs. "Your turn, tradition, right?" And at the end, he raised his bottle. To teaching me what it means to be a brother, even when I didn't deserve it. I didn't make a speech. I just clinked my bottle against his. It was time. Everyone laughed, and in that laughter, something settled. Forgiving isn't pretending nothing happened. It's choosing who to give a future to. I still have the decanter on my cabinet. It doesn't hurt to look at it anymore. It's just beautiful glass, solid, and finally being used the way it was meant to be.